over to me, Rob Lawrence. That's me. Thanks, Julie. So in my short time, I'm going to focus a little bit more on what I'm seeing in the trends of the partnerships that we're developing between local government and the many community groups. Beyond the stewardship groups, there's a number of organizations, individuals, clubs that have approached the city, and I'm seeing an interesting trend in how there's kind of a new welling of connection to our local natural spaces and parks that make me optimistic, and I'm an optimistic person, so it kind of underscores my values as well. So for those who haven't been to Nanaimo before, just a few quick stats: 90,000 people living here and enjoying this place, 91 square kilometers in area. But for those who are new here, definitely get off the highway. This is not the city of malls. There is such an intricate network of parks and natural spaces and places to really enjoy the community. So if you're here for a day or two, definitely get out and do that. Go down to the beaches, because this is an amazing community, and I'm really proud to work here for them. And as Julie kind of alluded to, partnership is definitely a key thing, because in our experience in local government, while we certainly have a clear role to play as far as water and watershed management, we have limits on what we can do. And it's working together with different organizations who have the different expertise that we can kind of complement those skills and move forward together. But there's barriers, there's roadblocks, there's issues that we need to overcome, and that takes time, and that takes opportunities like this to sit down as a group and discuss them and see how we can work together more effectively. So in the day of black and white TV long ago, the traditional view of local government was it was a big machine, and the staff people were out there, making sure the machine was effective and process was happening, and we were putting out permits and following all the regulatory requirements that we needed to do. But I'm here to say, though, that's certainly a changing view. That's not the case. We are much more of an interdepartmental organization. There's a lot of collaboration between departments and staff and management. The stovepipe mentality, while from an outside perspective that might be what we see, that's not the case. We do recognize the importance of environmental values and trying through our various departments how we can more effectively implement many of the regulations we have, and we recognize there's improvements that need to be made in some of those bylaws and regulations going forward. And we've had a long legacy of a great deal of policy on the watershed side, but also on the climate action side. Climate adaptation, for example, there is a fairly large and significant climate adaptation strategy we'll be beginning over the next couple of years. That'll be looking at the sea level rise concerns and the future storm events that we can expect, and how that's going to influence development along our creeks, watersheds, and shorelines in the near future. So we are trying to improve our regulations and requirements going forward with that. This is just simply a map of our official community plan, just to kind of underscore that, like many local governments, we use the traditional tools of development permit areas, zoning bylaws, to try and flag and highlight key natural features. In Nanaimo's case, the steep slopes development permit area, environmentally sensitive areas. And through the stewardship work of some individuals who were from years gone by, that effort to create the ESAs and to do stewardship work on them led to the city designated Lotus pennatus, an endangered species, to become the city flower. But it's just symbolic of the values and the connection many people have in the community for these types of natural spaces and what they want to do to kind of highlight the importance of them. This is just simply the zoning bylaw, just to simply say, as I mentioned before, regulations about setback areas, about what is required in relation to development and how close development can be to water courses. And I think Nanaimo took a little more of an aggressive stance, because as opposed to just simply following provincial requirements for setbacks, we have followed a policy of using something called top of bank, where we go in many cases beyond what provincial requirement requires for setback areas, and tries to follow that through the development process. But I'll tell you this, the reality is, and as Paul alluded in his earlier email, there's a legacy we have to live with in many of our water courses. Many places were used as fill sites in the past. I've run across places where we've done planting and we've been pulling up garbage along the side of creeks that are buried in the soil. There's dumping sites that have been left for many, many years. Invasive species is rampant throughout the community. So clearly there's limits to what local government can do after development is completed and after the maintenance periods are done for any restoration or planting plans that leave us lacking. So this is where we need working with the community. This is where programs like Partners in Parks, where we work with the local residents and we work with the stewardship community to improve our parks, either through playgrounds, sport fields, but also doing more to work with developing our urban forest canopy, working with students to learn more about what stewardship means through art, through educational programs with organizations like the Nanaimo Science and Sustainability Society. This is where we can kind of build a stronger connection with community. And this is just an example of some of the groups that we've been working with. Groups that have been working on the playground at Lindley Point Gyro have also been restoring the riparian area along the water courses as well. Okay, I got my message. I'm just going to skip it. Well, here's an important point. Give me a minute.
1 minute.
Restoration as therapy is another thing we're seeing as an interesting kind of evolution. There's groups that have come forward that see this as an opportunity to reconnect with community and work as a motion of therapy. This is a photo of a group called Bill's Place, who work with clients with brain trauma injury, and through going out and doing restoration projects, they use this as a way of engaging their clients with the community again, because many people who visit the parks see the group and interact with them, but they also learn more about understanding the nature and the restoration values that are necessary for many of these park sites. So I think it's a great win-win situation, and it's an interesting trend we're seeing. And as again, education with our high schools, with our eco clubs, and providing opportunities throughout the city is another thing we highlight. Going forward, this is my last slide. I think our next upcoming challenge is looking at natural assets and what we can do to better finance and sustain any kind of restoration work going forward into the future, and working with our stewardship partners. In this case, this was a case study that was done for Buttertup's Marsh that I can see going forward we could develop much more of a tighter, stronger, more sustainable kind of program for financing projects that require management plans in this particular case. So overcoming barriers, the only thing I can say is, all right, I'm going to leave it for the questions. Thanks.